How you been? Did I ever tell you about Lunacid, the dying world of the dreamer? A long time ago, a great beast arose from the sea at the prompting of the moon. This beast was a giant flying sea creature that with its great size spewed a poisonous fog. The poisonous fog made it near impossible to travel the world. Planes were grounded, the sea was corrupt and poisonous, and new dangerous and magical beasts were birthed from the fog. Humanity was forced into feudal lifestyles, with kings and kingdoms. Technology began to regress from gunpowder to bow and arrow to clubs and torches, and with humanity on the brink of extinction and plagued with paranoia, all hope seemed lost. In their darkest hour, however, King Griffith felled a Jotun, a giant elephant-like creature, and drank the cranial fluid from this beast. Griffith was then imbued with the knowledge of magic, and as Prometheus gave fire to man, Griffith gave his fellow humans the power to fight back and raise entire armies of spell swords with which to drive back the wicked creatures of the fog. This birthed the first age of magic. During this time, the moon began to leak liquid moonlight to the earth. This moonlight caused the great beast that birthed this dark age to take refuge and rest within the heart of the earth. The liquid moonlight was used to forge powerful magic weapons for warriors, and was bottled and used by witches and spell swords to enhance their magic powers, with power derived from the moon as well. The flora and fauna were also affected by the liquid moonlight. Moon petals were a new flower that bloomed with the waxing of the moon, and snails that were exposed to moonlight grew to the size of a large dog. An ancient king used bestial communion, a spell that allowed man to commune with beasts, to enact a demonic pact for the infliction of vampirism. This unnamed king then harbored the ability to inflict vampirism within his castle, leenu, until it was sealed away for unknown reasons. Vampires, while hated by the rest of the world, could find refuge in the magical kingdom of Lyria. Lyria was the kingdom that embraced magic and moonlight most deeply, with one of magic's most famed weapons, a great sword named the Moonlight, having been housed here in a premier school of magic. Ophelia was a skilled knight in service to Lyria, who defended the magical kingdom and surrounding territories like Castle leenu, where her lover, Queen Justina, resided. Queen Justina's castle was constantly onset by creatures of the fog. After investigating her castle, Justina found the great secret her ancestors harbored and indulged in vampirism herself in an effort to abate the fog beasts. This succeeded in repelling the sieges on leenu, and when Ophelia was made aware of the affliction of vampirism, committed herself to an eternity in her love's embrace, with the boons and caveats that come with vampirism, and guarding the great kingdom of Lyria. Towards the end of this first age of magic, two kingdoms fought an endless war against one another. Magic was no stranger to man's machinations of war, and experimentation with such magic led to the creation of curses. Curses are a powerful dark magic, which when weaved, corrupted and maimed their victims. And so the once valiant knight Suxarius fought with complete devotion to his kingdom, and in his triumph acquired many curses. Some of those curses included the curse of a failed saint from another world, a curse of a helix nail, and a curse of the unkillable serpent. These curses twisted both his body and mind, and finally cast away his last shred of lucidity and humanity in a battle between warring armies and a great sorcerer. Suxarius was victorious over both armies, and the sorcerer at the cost of what was left of the good knight. But as Suxarius approached the gates of his home as a beast, the final spark of good inside him urged him to throw himself into the hole the cascading moonlight had left in what would later be known as the Well. Years would pass, and knights would follow in Suxarius' footsteps and indulge in his blood, turning them into devoted cursed reptilian knights for the once noble Suxarius. At this point, the great beast, dormant under the earth, started to stir. Calamus Cerulean, a battle mage of Lyria, was walking the garden of Lyria one night when a speck of liquid moonlight fell and landed on him. He was burdened with a vision of the great beast waking, rising from the depths, and ending the world. Calamus traveled quickly and accrued powerful magic, both holy and dark. Combining these two magics, he performed a rite which enhanced the poisonous fog, causing the moonlight which before trickled to torrent. The cascading liquid moonlight lulled the great beast back to sleep and completely drowned and destroyed Lyria. After this, followed a brief second age of magic that was plagued with a series of corrupt rulers and mages, further harboring a sense of distrust in the public. When someone wicked was cast out, they were punished by being thrown into the great hole left behind by the moonfall, sending these corrupt magic users back to Lyria. Some notable members thrown into the well at this time included Sotiris, a witch king who had ruled even before the moonfall in a kingdom beset with plenty, but not for his people. Sotiris let his subjects starve away in poverty while he proclaimed, "Let them eat the rats," to his knights. His knights, who were more loyal to their kingdom than their king, maimed Sotiris by removing his eyes so he could never look out of the well again, and removed one of his arms so he may never climb from the well. They then sent him back to Lyria and expelled him to the depths of the well. Sotiris' only nourishment there were the rats he had proclaimed his subjects eat. He would starve but never die, until finally he would use the very last of his magic to turn himself to stone. In the deepest reaches of the well, it's said that rats still worship a crumbling weathered statue of him. Abdul was another magic user, this time a wizard afflicted with the old double-sided coin of madness and genius, leaning towards the madness side. Talented and mad as he was, Abdul invented the art of lithomancy, a magic which gave life to the inanimate. However, all of these objects which were thrust into consciousness from nothingness like this could do nothing but scream until they were destroyed. It's likely that Abdul's interest in magic started leaning towards cruelty, leading to his exile as a temple he later heads proclaims, "To hunger is to live, to consume is to die," and this same temple has a ritualistic blade coated with poison meant to make its victims suffer to death. Abdul would fast for 7 days and nights in this temple until he consumed an acidic fruit which would grant him painful visions of the god of cruelty, Bayagatoth. After this brief second age of magic, mankind built the Great Well over the hole in the ground that was the epicenter for the moonfall. Here they would cast out all their unwanted, warranted and otherwise. In conjunction with this act, 3 of the great remaining kingdoms formed a trust to banish most magic, and together formed a new rule, the Golden Lance, over the ruins of Lyria. The Golden Lance was comprised of magic-hating and skilled warriors, and with this they banned the magic that was being used to oppress people and cause ruinous destruction like the magic that led to Lyria's annihilation. Keep in mind, however, that some magic was still allowed though. This included mostly holy magic used in the pursuit of hunting non-conforming magic users, the undead, and protection of the Golden Lance's sovereign land from beasts and opposing elements. The castle of leenu had birthed a new descendant, a vampire born of the mothers Ophelia and Justina, named Kralal. Kralal was the acting ruler of Castle leenu after his mothers began their 1,000-year rest, and at the time of the Golden Lance's rise to power, and with great foresight, used some magics to transport the kingdom of leenu from the surface deep into the Great Well. During the Golden Lance's rule, archaic assassinations rose to prevalence. Poisons, daggers, and claws became a common tool to push agendas in kingdoms' rules. One assassin, perhaps the most skilled assassin of her time, was known for always getting her mark. Successful assassination after successful assassination led to her garnering great renown. She was also wise, however, and she realized that with talent came a target on her back, and that there was always a bigger fish. This assassin took a mark deep within the Great Well, where she would never be able to return to the world of assassins, whether or not she completed her mission. Once in the well, this assassin settled down and decided that instead of murdering people, she would instead scrounge from the already plentiful dead in the well and make a name for herself as a merchant. Another talented magic user, Etna, was cast down to the Great Well as an orphan child when their orphanage became too full, a common practice in this dark age. This child, however, was different, as they were adept in both magic and alchemy, and with the power of both, they astral projected back to the world above. However, seeing what the world above had to offer, they returned back to the well to find their body now dead and rotted. They had freedom but were now a ghost. With this, they decided to help others who fell down the well with their great power of alchemy. In another place, a young and powerful witch, known as the Great Fire Witch Ashley, used her powerful magic to engulf an entire kingdom in flames. Whether by her own admonishment and guilt, or having been exiled, she made her way to the Great Well, where she would study and develop many powerful fire magics and pyromancies. During the Golden Lance's reign, magic was thought to be wicked, and with this, self-proclaimed righteous men sought a holy magic. One, Uxvahared the Golden, would succeed. People knew not how he'd done this, or even what Uxvahared's name was before he was called Uxvahared, but what we do know is that he believed if the silver moonlight was magical and evil, then the golden light of the sun must be good and holy. The fog blocked out the sun, but through some unknown means, Uxvahared harnessed that power and died. For some time, his corpse was a holy relic, and saints were allowed to drink his blood, but eventually his blood dried and his body became brittle, so Uxvahard was moved to a temple constructed in the well. What was left of Uxvahard's followers years later forsake their flesh for his golden essence and radiance. The Golden Lance would rule for several generations until it was found that they harbored and practiced forbidden magics. The outrage began a long civil war, eventually dissolving their rule and sparking the Crusades. What was left of the Golden Lance sought refuge in the Great Well, which they had cursed so many to reside in. They all had different goals and outcomes while fleeing to the depths of the well, but they all met damnation. Sir Jeff and David sought the frivolous magic lithomancy and met their unspecified end because of this. Sir Hicket was a man of no particular renown. He was neither strong nor particularly talented, but he had been given an armor that was impenetrable and won many conflicts by simply withstanding his enemies' blows until they tired themselves out, and he'd make short work of them. Sir Hicket's mission was to travel through the Boiling Grotto and slay Cursed Knight Suxarius. His mission was a failure, however, when he ran into the great fire witch Ashley, who cooked him alive inside his suit of armor. His armor now stands alone, with his charred corpse inside, both as a testament to his immovableness and Ashley's pyromancy skill. The remaining members of the army of the Golden Lance stayed hunkered down until the end of the Crusades. The Crusades were a great cleansing witch hunt into the well to stop any fears of an uprising from the Golden Lance, the undead, the criminals, the madmen, and the powerful witches and warriors that had been cast into the well. The Crusades were headed by the remaining nearby armies of man and the Holy Church. The Church had banned many more magics, but a few in the name of the Crusades were still allowed to be used to match the power of the opposition. Armies marched into the Great Well to cleanse any aforementioned opposition, both real and imagined, from the well. A sect of the Holy Church, known as the Holy Monks, wanted to contribute to the Crusades, but rarely left their monastery, so they committed to summoning a demon with the plan to kill it and collect whatever demonic relic it dropped and donate it to frontline warriors or the church at large. When they summoned this demon, however, it was not a great and terrible thing, but instead an infant. They harbored this infant demon until the end of the Crusades, in which it was revealed what they had done, and they too were cast into the well, where they had used their holy magic to create a haven near the top named Wing's Rest. The Crusades culminated in much destruction and death, and all exits to the well were sealed and guarded to prevent any further escapes. As the remaining members of the Crusade fled the well, the Golden Lance would come out of hiding and construct prisons and pits for those that dared to stand against them. Those subjugated by the Golden Lance were forced to wear golden masks and fashion life-draining candles and guard the other prisoners. During this time, Castle Leenu was uncovered in a great sanguine sea and was onset by armies of man, but under the crown of Kralal, who had turned his subjects to vampires, they were able to handily fend off any attacks. One last army they might not have been expecting, however, was the final members of the Golden Lance, who besieged the Castle Leenu. This last attempt at greatness by the Golden Lance was their final and most ultimate evil. They slaughtered many servants and residents of Leenu, but were ultimately no match for vampiric inhabitants, so they used a magic beyond holy and demonic to transmute and fuse themselves into abominations capable of contesting the residents of Castle Leenu. This succeeded, and the remaining court of Castle Leenu sealed off the ballroom from the horrors within. The castle now is hunkered down in a state of decay and ruin as the remaining inhabitants try and protect what is left of their liege in his tiny kingdom. The Crusades concluded with mixed results, but ultimately a major blow to the culture and society maintained in the well by those cast out from above. Abdul the Mad Wizard fostered a community of cultists who were obsessed with life and death and escaping the well. He convinced his followers to consume a poison to free their minds. This succeeded in freeing their literal brains from their bodies, giving them separate wills. The bodies stayed behind in the temple. The brains traveled to the Forbidden Archives, a library of discarded books from above in further pursuit of knowledge, and Abdul traveled through the Labyrinth of Ash to the Temple of Uxvaharad, where he could research his escape from this world in peace. Here Abdul would continue communicating with an extra-dimensional being known as Bayagatoth. This Bayagatoth would direct Abdul's madness and cruelty towards suffering and bestow blessings in turn. This primordial god would bestow tokens of spite for acts of great cruelty. Some historical events that bestowed spite tokens were the slaying of a giant of magic, known as a Jotun, the transmutation of an animal into a mass of humanoids, the use of poison to separate the minds and bodies of one's followers, the disruption of the flow of souls to the afterlife, and the desecration of a shrine to an elder being. After accumulating 30 of these spite tokens, Abdul performed a ritual to allow himself to escape the world of Lunacid and to travel to another dimension, leaving behind instructions to follow him if one would wish. The game opens with our player character, the Seven of Swords, the Thief of Life, being hauled to the Great Well by Lobos, a corpse carrier, and tossed in. The Seven of Swords is called as much because they're able to steal their life back if dead, and they turn their killing of enemies into power by leveling up. As you get your legs in the well, you'll run into Demi, the demon child raised by the monks, who transports you to the monks' other great work, Wing's Rest. Wing's Rest is a haven for those who have fallen into the well who seek shelter, and has blessings on it to keep away danger, even now. After acquiring a key, you travel through Abdul's old temple and through a sewer system, deciding either to explore some catacombs, a forest teeming with life, or the lost castle of leenu. Making your way through what is left of the castle's former inhabitants, you chance upon Garrett the Hound, who is here to challenge the final royal remaining in the castle of Kralal. Making your way to the throne room, you'll find Garrett had his bout with Kralal and lost. After you defeat Kralal, you're able to then travel through Terminus Prison and either visit the Labyrinth of Ash or make your way closer to the Dreamer through the arena. The arena is teeming as much now as it ever was, with Suxarian knights, and after fighting through them for a water and earth talisman, you're able to break away a seal for the Chamber of Fate, where Suxarius lies in wait, guarding the Dreamer. He warns the player as they approach to leave, and as the Seven of Swords nears the arena, Garrett the Hound tries to fight Suxarius first, and is completely annihilated. You battle with Suxarius, the once noble knight, and as the battle carries on, more and more of Suxarius falls away, until he finally has the Seven of Swords in a position to kill them. Before he's able to, though, all of Seven's friends from Angel's Rest come forth and assist the player in battle. Demi and Cheryl battle Suxarius directly, and then battle curses around the arena, while Etna shields the arena from anyone escaping, and buffs the player's health and mana from outside the shield. Calamus Cerulean also shows up, and gives Seven the Lucid Blade, a powerful shining holy blade. Suxarius' curses manifest themselves from around the arena, and after destroying them all, Suxarius finally gives way to death and disappears into the void. Demi, Calamus, and Seven travel further on to wake the Dreamer and end this rotten world. It's at this point you're presented with 4 different endings. Ending A, the true ending, has the player simply approach the Dreaming Great One, who awakens and flies into the moon, and the world disappears. You awaken and begin thinking about the world you just explored, and all the fun you'd had meeting friends and slaying enemies along the way. You remember, though, the lessons you had learned, and remember in your heart that if you ever want to go back, you can always sleep and start a new game. Ending B is called the Gates of Tartarus. It follows you collecting 30 tokens of spite and following Abdul through his portal to another dimension. You travel through the cosmos until you arrive in another realm, one of bright lights teeming with life and joy. You cannot move, but you brought in a plague with you. You've escaped the well, the world of Lunacid, into another, and brought along the demon of pain and cruelty with you, Bayagatoth. Ending CD, from staring at a puddle of water, simply has your computer talking with you about the nature of video games and loving oneself. Take the experiences and fun you had while playing Lunacid and let it carry you through the day. Ending E follows after you collect every spell in the game and progress a plotline where you have some fourth wall breaking segments and visions of secrets and messages similar to Ending A about what happens when a Dreamer awakens. After this, you awaken the Dreamer and have one final battle with them in a rhythm-style combat on the moon. Once victorious, you then become the Dreamer. You're in an all-white realm, named after your player character, with the song that plays being named The World and your player character name. Trying to teleport back to Wing's Rest using spells or gems only displays the message, there's nothing to go back to. As you travel around, you encounter golem-like creatures who are very weak, both dealing little damage and taking much damage, with nothing but a crystal to distinguish them. Their enemy name is Imperfect Player Name. You become the Dreamer, but your dreams are empty and uninteresting. And that's all. I promised I'd come back to this game once it was out, and I did, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope this ties up any loose ends for anyone who had questions following my early access video. I figured this would be a pretty good game once it was finally finished, and I feel like I was right. We may even see a fun update with more content down the road since we're given an item in the post-game that says it has no use right now, but might in the future. I think I might do a video on the whole Kira-verse in the future, but that's probably going to be a project and a half, so no promises on if that comes out, and especially no promises on when that would come out. Anyways, I'm hoping this video comes out on Christmas, and if you're watching on Christmas, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. And if you're watching afterwards, I hope you had a happy holiday. I'll see you guys next week. Later.